When I was in Canada here recently, when Tamara and I went over there, I was sitting at the table with some friends, and we were just having a guys out time. And we were just discussing various things. And one of my friends, Steve, says, "Hey, you have you heard the stuff about the sun and and other things?" And I was like, "No, I don't think so." And anyhow, he was sharing a little bit of that with me, and then I went and looked up, the information that he was sharing, and I remember actually watching this little clip on YouTube about the sun, and the sun. The scientist is talking about the sun and the sun being hollow. The sun really isn't burning up or burning like fire and all these things. And then he was talking about the sun actually being a converter, and it's converting energy from what they would term as another dimension, because they really don't know where it's coming from. And so actually the sun would be a secondary, and the energy that it's converting is the primary. And uh, the kind of the decay part of the sun, I know this sounds a little bit strange, but is like the heat. It's the all the heat that you feel on the earth or whatever is kind of the aftermath of that. But my point is that I prophetically spoke a number of years ago. It was back in 2004, somewhere in there. All this info came out in 2012, and the words from 2004 to 2008, somewhere in there, was about a new discovery of the sun that would be redefined, and even the moon. And we haven't quite got there on the moon, even though it's interesting that we've landed on the moon, but there's mysteries about the moon that will come forth. My point is this: is that God was revealing to me about certain things that have been defined in the earth, whether it's the sun, the moon, and that they would be redefined, and that we are increasingly rising up into a a place of being redefined, who we are in the kingdom of God, meaning that we're coming up into a greater revelation of what that is. So everything that concerns creation will be redefined, because we will see it differently. We will understand it way beyond than what we've ever known before. And I was thinking about some different aspects. I recently posted a prophetic word about the fading of of the sun and the moon, that the light is fading. And actually the scientist speaks about how the sun is like fading out. And without me knowing that, I was relating it to in in the future kingdom of God, the revelation of that as it manifests on the earth as it is in heaven. There will be no need for the sun and moon, meaning that the energy that the sun produces or sends out would not be required, because you and I are increasingly becoming the light of the world, and that energy, that force of heaven, is becoming more radiant. It's you carry that. And of course, some of you probably heard me speak about the sun a few months ago in this respect, when Tamara and I were watching the latest Star Wars movie. And that big star, I forget what it's called in Star Wars, but it's drawing the energy from the sun, and it's going to blow up a planet. And in that moment, the Lord speaks to me, and he says, "You know that you have more energy in you than the sun, and there's more life in you than the sun." And of course it shocked me, because I was like, oh my goodness. And I realized that there's nothing created in outside of humanity, outside of the sons and daughters of God. There's nothing that has more energy than you. In other words, you have the life force of heaven in you. That means you have the ability to call things into being. You have the ability to create. And on goes the story. So there is just a little piece. It reminds me of like faith, that if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you can speak to this mountain, you can declare this, and it will come forth. So it really requires just very little. And so I relate that to like the light of God that is in us, the light of God that is in us to such a degree that it really doesn't require much in order to manifest the kingdom of God at a very high level. But having said that, the life of God, the light of God is increasing. And of course, I've told you from the very beginning of this year that 2016 is the year of light, the Hebrew word or, O-R-E, 216. And I didn't even know that until I got with a friend, and all of these are previous posts that I've sent out or videos. But I'm just kind of doing a summary right now of what is going on. So we're the level of light technology, the level of light that is going to manifest through the sons and daughters of God is going to go off the charts this year in a very powerful way. And I want to just tag this with one other thought. I mentioned earlier that it was before the elections of Indiana, that there was a landslide. The Lord said, you have now entered into the heart of the landslide. And I've released videos on this as well. And the landslide meaning that this government that's coming through is going to be a landslide. Like it's an illusion. The competitiveness that's going on, the competition, is an illusion. It's not real. And only agreement, the levels of agreement, make it feel like that it really has substance. And so my point is that the government that is intended for this hour is rising up. And yes, the enemy is trying to do everything he can to stop it, to create an illusion that it's not going to happen. But this presidential election will absolutely become a landslide. Not just what happened in Indiana. Indiana was a high mark in the sense of a landslide of something that happened, but it will carry through all through until November. It will look like there's substance. It will look like there's this, but all of a sudden it just will be a landslide, and that it depicts the level of government I believe that it's in you, that you're going to create landslides in the future in the sense of things being moved out of the way, and being able to enter in to the purpose and destiny that God has for your life. So this is a very powerful time, a very powerful season that we are entering into. And so I want to encourage you just to not to allow the illusions of life to govern you, and just to rise up into the epicenter of what God has called you to. Okay, have an awesome day. Stay tuned for more.